Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. This should be a pretty interesting week. We do have quite a bit going on. We'll go ahead and take a look at the calendar quick. Today we have U.S. manufacturing PMI. That is at market close, New York market close. We have services PMI Wednesday, the FOMC meeting, which is this I think will have the biggest effect on price for the duration of the week. Unemployment claims, non-farm employment change, and the U.S. unemployment rate. All of these things will have a pretty big effect on BTC and the overall market this week. But do keep in mind, like usually when these things happen, we typically end up seeing, something of a, let's go into like a 4-hour time frame. So that meeting is, at, would be like this candle here. And typically what you would see is, like a candle that would look something like this. Oops. Right. And then price kind of ranges inside of it for a period of time. And then again on, what would that be, Friday morning with the unemployment, at that point, maybe we'll see another kind of wick like this. But in the meantime, price will just kind of range and consolidate until, maybe into week's end or, at the start of next week, we make a decision if we're going to have an, continuation of the upside or the downside, right? So that's usually what happens. It's not like, price typically doesn't just like decide then and there and all of a sudden we, mega dump or mega go up or whatever. We typically put in some kind of a massive candle, some, great volatility, and then price sort of, makes its decision in the following days. So something to keep in mind, ultimately, that you're going to have a lot of volatility. If you're doing some day trading, depending on where your stops are, expect them to get ran on Wednesday. So just like keep that in mind, just like in terms of volatility. So we'll talk a little bit about like where I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible so you guys are able to watch it and rewatch it and kind of get the most of it. I know it's hard to watch an hour and a half live stream. No one really, no one has time to do something like that every day, right? So we'll go on to a daily time frame. This is something that I've been pointing out for a while. So this was my original plan, doing something like this, coming back up into the zone, getting it moved down to this like 22, 23 zone, tap this trend line, also this key zone of support, which is down tap monthly. We have a monthly naked point of control as well over there. Spend very little time there, bounce back up to this 25K range, and then go ahead and fill this volume gap that I've talked quite a bit about. You can see right here, this is a fair value gap, but it's also a volume gap. And you can see like whenever price has reached this gray box zone, price is virtually teleported through it, right? So here, wicked, dropped straight through, resistance, wicked, went right through, support, support here. And now, again, what would you expect? Well, I would expect price to cut straight through this zone, go down into, somewhere really in here to find support. And then I would really like for price to pop back up and actually fill this area and spend a little bit of time there, right? So that's my general plan. And if we look on a daily time frame, just a couple things that I've talked quite a bit about. You guys know how much I love the 618, and you guys know how much I love a 618 back test. I'm never really trying to knife catch or anything like that. I look for a move down and then a back test of the 618. And what are we saying? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. 5 days rejecting from the 618, as well as this weekly level here that has been very, very key, kind of an SR. If we go ahead and remove the 618 here, you can see if we even go down to a lower time frame that this area was support and is now resistance, right? So like doing that, looking at this, I think it's abundantly clear, at least in my opinion, when I look at this and I think about, the move to the upside that we have had and, just my general analysis, technically we're still range bound, right? Kind of in this zone here. But I personally, I am expecting further downside. I think that these lows are very ripe for the taking. I would expect some degree of a massive liquidation. Again, cut through this zone as per usual, get the move down to the trend line, and this, key area of support, right? Um, that's just how I see it. For me, when you spent this much time here and we spent all of these days rejecting from the 618 on a back test of this high, to me, that's a short. So I am short Bitcoin. And my entry is I entered in here and then I added more on the monthly close. So my entry is about, probably right about here, right at the 618, about 29,350 or something like that, right? So I'm looking to take profit in this zone here. And then afterwards, I'm simply going to let that trade run until I see price find support, right? If we get down in here and price is kind of going like this and it doesn't look good, well, I'm not going to take profit. I'll hold it. We get another leg down. And if we come in here, this is my final zone. I'll probably take some profit in here because at this point I do want to flip long. I'll give you guys just one other zone that I have my eye on that I want to share with you guys. If we go ahead and look at, let's go to, is it this chart? Yeah. If we go to this chart on a daily time frame, this is one other zone that I will look at for support. You can see, like, generally speaking, like, I think in here is a pretty safe bet. Anywhere that price is going to come and kind of tap this zone here. But, we can see we have this really nice fib channel here to the upside, and we're currently at the top of that channel. Once price, gets down in here, I think that we'll, fall straight through to the bottom of the channel, and we can see that that bottom of the channel does coincide. Um, the bottom of the channel does coincide really, really well with this. If you do your fixed range volume pull here to kind of like get an idea, let's just call this one big range, right? If you do your fixed range volume pull, you'll see that the VA is right at about 24,500, 24,500. And this coincides with the bottom of the channel as well. So if we were to see a move down here and start to kind of find some support here, and price looks like it could be gaining some strength, in that case, I will close more of my short and I will look to, flip long at the very least for some degree of, a move back up. So that's my general analysis, and this has not changed for a very long time. I know on lower time frames, it's been tough because it's very choppy price action. But if you zoom out and just look at kind of the bigger picture, this is, really what I'm seeing here. This makes a lot of sense to me. We can go ahead and take a look as well at a weekly chart. Let's see which one I have here. I think this one. Yeah, so if we're looking at a weekly chart, and again, I do want to draw out this weekly level so you guys can see it here. We can see we had a closure above, rejected, back tested, closed below, and now, we're seeing that rejection off of this weekly level here. So this weekly, about 29,900 is acting as resistance, right? And you can see this is our volume gap here that is currently acting as support. And, really, like, my viewpoint, if we're looking at a weekly here, right, we kind of have this zone, okay? This is where I'm looking for price to drop and find some kind of a support for then either continuation to the upside or just simply ranging, kind of back and forth between this area, right? So as I look at everything, I understand that it has been hard to have been shorting on this move up and maybe, feeling like you missed out on some long opportunities. And at this point, you're thinking, God, I should just long, and it's going to go higher because it's just been going higher. We are at a very key area of resistance. You can see support fell through, back testing that support. I think it would be very appropriate to reject on the very first attempt and then, make a second attempt, at which point, then we can maybe look for some kind of a breakout. Okay. So we'll do a little bit of updating on our charts. I was, in that trade, I did we were in this long trade on, nope, not this one. I might have already deleted it. Yeah, I did delete it. I took like a lower time frame long. I believe it was, oh God, I can't remember. I must have just deleted it. Am I on the right chart? Yeah. What was it? Was it that much of a lower time frame trade? It was right here. I see it now. Traded this harmonic to I actually, so I took some profits here, which was the 618, and then I ended up closing it I think like in here because I was like, I'm just gonna be done. You know, it was like a Saturday. I'm like, I'm just gonna enjoy the rest of my day. I don't want to worry about this trade. And then it, of course, it pumped right up to our final target. So, you know, whoever held that position, you know, you definitely, you got your full scope of what I was looking to trade to. I think my entry, I'm not even going to try to pretend to remember my entry, but nonetheless, the trade looked something like this. And I was looking to trade it, I think, a little bit higher. We just like barely made it to my target. So, you know, this worked out really, really well. This was a great trade. I was very happy with that long. Uh, LTC is another one that we can take a brief look at. This one I am short and I am still in this position. I entered this short here. And again, this was based on a harmonic, but also just, you know, kind of looking at general charts here and looking at the liquidity and all of that. As a matter of fact, let's take just a brief look at that. I want to get an update on what that's looking like. So we still have a lot of positive delta built up into the highs here of LTC. So yeah, you know, we really haven't seen, this is a really nice move down, but we haven't really seen, you know, the full, you know, length of what could be this short squeeze here, right? With all of this positive delta squeezing down to, you know, I don't know, let's just say about 80. Has this been updated? No, this is not updating. Oh, this is behind. I wonder what's going on here that this isn't updating. Let's try refreshing our page once. All right, hopefully this will work now. Okay, I guess we're having some technical issues. It is not updating, so I'm not aware as to what the current delta is on LTC. That is unfortunate. So I guess I'm not able to get a read, but we did grab a decent chunk of liquidity getting down to about 86. So unfortunately, I don't have a full picture on that. I've taken quite a bit of profits on the way down here. I took some here and I took some here. Not at the Pico bottom, but you know, in this zone, generally speaking, I've taken profit. And at this point, you know, with what's coming up, like I said, I am generally bearish on BTC and am expecting some degree of a move down. So it goes without saying that LTC is also going to, you know, kind of have that same or equivalent move down, maybe even a little bit more because LTC is at resistance on the BTC, LTC BTC pair. So this is a trade I really, really like. I just hope, you know, I honestly, I don't even think I'm bearish enough on this target. I think that it'll even go a little bit lower. That said, and we can talk a little bit about this, I wouldn't be surprised if price really got to move back up before then going back down. With the FOMC and everything going on, it's really important to take profits this week. And, holding a position going into the FOMC meeting is, more or less some degree of a gamble, right? Especially with these altcoins. Ape, I am currently in a long position on as well. We have this harmonic here. It is just a little bit messy and a little bit overextended, but being that it's an alt, I'm like willing to let that go. I'm willing to give it a little bit more flexibility. So what I'm looking for is ultimately a move back up to, what was this macro 618, which is also the local 618. If you draw from here to here, it's all right around that zone. It would also be front running the point of control. So who knows, it may go even a little bit higher, but the point is that first price has to gain acceptance back into the value area. Once it gains acceptance back into the value area, getting it above about 3.9, then I would look for an extension to get back up to that, to that zone that I'm looking to long to. And one other thing that I really like about this setup here is that, if we just kind of like zoom out a little bit here, a lot of you that I never, ever trade head and shoulders. I'm just not a fan of them. But, you can see that as a little bit of added confluence, you can see that there could be some kind of a head and shoulders pattern starting to play out here, where in this case, I'm ultimately longing the harmonic, but also into the right shoulder to get that move back up into here, maybe even to the point of control that rests up here that was previous resistance, right? So that's kind of the trade that I'm looking for here on Ape. I liked this one simply because if we just go ahead and take a look at funding rates here, we can see that like funding rates for BTC and ETH are could they're positive and negative. They're kind of back and forth. But if we scroll down and take a look at Ape, which did I pass it? I must have passed it. There's apt. Ape, here it is. Ape is largely negative, and especially so on like these bigger exchanges. So I'm, I really like that. Saying all this negative funding here, and then of course if we go to our liquidity data, you can see there's about 50 million in negative delta built up here. Into the lows. So yeah, I just really like this for some kind of like maybe like a little bit of a squeeze to the upside to kind of hedge my shorts here. Otherwise, if we break down, no surprise, I'm already short, net short speaking, so like it won't be so bad. Yeah, like BTC is barely broke negative. Yeah. So, for me, I do like this one as kind of like, some degree of a hedge. That said, they're altcoins. So they are a little bit more wild, right? They're who's to say that this will play out perfectly and we'll get that long to the upside. Especially here, we're getting this move down, but I actually like that. If we kind of get this move down here and hold this low, maybe we'll get a sweep of these highs. I'm taking some profit kind of into this zone here that I think will act as resistance, but or otherwise if we break down, then that's fine too. I'll let my shorts run, but I did like this one for a hedge. I just thought it would play out a little bit better than some of the alternatives. So we'll kind of have to wait and see how that resolves. So going back to BTC, like I said, we are rejecting from the 618 here. I do really like this, the weekly and the 618. I am personally expecting more downside from just like, in general to resolve the week. Now, that said, we're not necessarily out of the woods yet. You can see that we're kind of at a point of support here. There was once resistance, back testing as support. As a matter of fact, I just want to see if, yeah. Okay, so we've broken down below the previous range val, so that's a good sign for shorts. Just with all the volatility coming in this week, like I'm not particularly married to my position. Like I'm not, how do I say this? Like I wouldn't be surprised if we round tripped back into my entry with the volatility that I'm expecting into this week. So, and I'm okay with that. I'm fully expecting to hold my short from in here for at least another week or two. I'm 100% okay with that. I have my stop above this high. The point of my short, okay, for getting all low time frame volatility, the whole point of my short is to say that I believe we are going to go, break down towards this trend line. I think that we're going to go here before we go back up here, if at all, right? So I'm happily short in here with my stop above here going into the meetings. Even if we come back up here and swipe up here like this, okay, great. There's even a chance I'll add more to my short when we break back down and we lose the 618 again and look to trade it lower, right? If we were to see a scenario like that, I'm not concerned that, I'm going to lose my position here. I'm happy to hold it. Okay. Now, I will, just for the sake of argument, talk a little bit about like what would the bullish scenario look to play out like. I don't have, let me see, I must just have it in here. Yeah, so the local bullish scenario, right? We do have this wedge, this rising wedge. And really what you would look for, what you would look for then would be, a move to the upside and a swing failure of this high here, and maybe some kind of a tap or get close to the top of the trend line here near the apex, to which then we would look to short back down. So that's my bullish scenario that I am looking for. And I see how you can make an argument for the bulls here and why we should get another move up. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If we get another move up and we do break to the upside, holy shit, like I will be shorting the absolute life out of that move, because I think it would be super, because of right now, I think it's unlikely. And in the event that move did happen, I don't think it's sustainable. Looking at where we're at and how, price is, bouncing off of resistance here, and how, in my opinion, how weak it looks like it's going to roll over and get more of a significant move to the downside. If we did get a pump like that, I don't think it's sustainable, and I do think it will result in, even a crazier move down, very quick, something like this, and then, get that continuation to the downside. But for now, like I said, I'm generally more, looking at this, looking at the data on the chart, I'm more biased towards continuation to the downside. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if we ranged through the remainder of the week. Okay. So we are at about 27 minutes coming up here. I think that this is a good place to wrap this up. One thing I think, yeah, I think this is a good place to wrap this up. I don't want to get into like too much detail and deter you guys from what I think is the, what I think of as the general plan, right? I don't want to like, I don't want to get too much into lower time frames and trades we can take this week and deter you guys from understanding that here we're doing a 618 back test, and anytime you see something like that, it's generally a great position to, look for a short, put your stop above the previous high and trade it down, wherever you like, right? I don't want to deter you guys from having that perspective and understanding on a higher time frame, on a daily time frame, that this is playing out as a trade. That, let's say we saw something like this on a 30-minute time frame or a 1 hour time frame, we would take this 100% and we would look to trade it, lower on the 618 back test like this. So seeing it on a daily, I know sometimes it's hard for some people. We get caught up on the 5-minute, 15, 30-minute time frame. I really want to emphasize this week, because there's going to be a lot of low time frame volatility that could really shake people out of their position. I really want to emphasize that on higher time frame, we are at an extremely key resistance here that we are back testing now for the very first time. we rejected, we deviated back inside, and now we're starting to lose, that level once again. Here we can see on a daily time frame, we get that daily closure below, we are back into this previous range, or otherwise just below, this area of resistance now, right? It did hold as resistance. So I really want you guys to bear that in mind and not get too caught up in the lower time frames this week, because there will be a lot of volatility, like on the 5, 15, 30, 1 hour, minute candles, right? So, okay, cool. Well, we'll go ahead and cut it off there, leave it at 30 minutes or so you guys can watch and rewatch this if you want to kind of get an idea of my thoughts. I will be very active this week in the Discord, and I'll be sure to like post some nice chart updates. If I see some lower time frame trades, I'll be sure to share them. But I can't emphasize enough, just this higher time frame setup here, keeping in mind that it could take, a week to 2 weeks for this to sort of all actually play out, and not to get too worked up about the lower time frames. So as always, guys, thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the Discord.